Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, you forgot your seat.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, as you see, spring went forward and it's a little lighter outside as we get later. I'm loving this time of year. And by the way, this is the show that talks about all the sports and entertainment that you love in Louisiana, and of course, a focus on the city of New Orleans. And this show is going to prove that right there because we have a legend from New Orleans. His name is Ron Maestri. They call him the Godfather. What a great legend he is. That's when he coached the Privateers in the 70s and 80s when he was a younger guy, and he came back and coached after being an athletic director for 20 years. He coached the team more recently, but he is a legend there on the lakefront, and his name's Ron Maestri. We're also going to have a legend, the greatest basketball player to ever play in a high school in the city of New Orleans. That guy on the left, Randy Livingston, who now coaches Newman and got his second straight state title. And also we're going to have Ryan Fitzgerald from the NOLA Gold. He's a GM. But March Madness is here. That's right. It starts tonight. By the way, they played playing games tonight, but Thursday it starts really for real, and that's Houston is the #1 overall seed. They are playing the championship in Houston, so if they can get there and hold their seed, they're going to be playing at home, basically. And then Bama is the #1 team from the SEC. They're the #2 overall seed. They're a 1 seed, but they're the second best team, they're saying, and also you got Kansas and Purdue, and also as 1 seeds. University of Louisiana, Raising Cajuns, the only team this year from the state of Louisiana. They're going to represent and play Tennessee on Thursday at 8:30. But how about the LSU women? That's right. Right here, you have the 3 seed. They were 28-2 this season. They're going to play Hawaii Friday at 4:30. Also, Tulane, congratulations to them. They have 3 all-conference players. You got Jalen Cook there for Ron Hunter, that coach. Jalen Cook, first team. You have Jalen Forbes, second team, and Kevin Cross, third team, All-American Conference. And Derek Carr makes it official. That's right, he is here, and he is signed, and he had a great press conference. So stay tuned. We're coming back with Primetime Sports. It's going to be fun.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and like I said in the open, this show is going to cover it all. We're going to talk football in the open, but we have some basketball, we got some baseball, and even some rugby. We're going to start off with hoops because it was the most recent thing that happened. Newman, the Newman Greenies won their second straight state championship. The third straight year they were in the finals, and the year before that even, they were in the semifinals. We had head coach Randy Livingston on back in June, and we had him on several years ago as well. Talk about his career and everything else about him. But now we're going to talk about this team. This team has come from the ashes and done some great things in the last several years. Jim Tillett was the coach before that, and he had a nice program as well. And Randy took it to just the next level. And here they are right here. We do it every year when a team wins a championship. We bring at least one local team on. And here this year it's Newman. Randy, Livingston, welcome back to the show, man.
Appreciate it, Scott. Appreciate it.
Cannon, how you doing? Cannon Jefferson, and of course Chris Lockett. Feels like you've been starting for about 8 years, both of you guys.
Yes, sir.
But let's talk about this real quick off the bat. How was this weekend? It was back in Lake Charles, where it used to be. Was it any different than the year before when you won?
Yeah, it definitely was different. I think anytime you have a group of seniors that been through the whole program and have been successful, it has the pressure's on at the end. We were kind of the top dog the whole season, and when you're that, you're always, the hunted. Before, these guys were hunting for a championship, and then they taste one last year, and then now everybody's trying to dismantle them and get to the throne. So there was some pressure there, and I think we felt it in the championship game, but we were able to prevail.
Yeah, Chris, speaking of that hunter thing, because, when you're coming up, it's always fun to knock out those big dogs, but when you're the hunted, everybody's coming for you every game. Every single game. It's like when Duke plays, when Golden State plays now. What's it like, the difference between, hey, we're going to surprise some teams, and now you're the team that they're gunning for?
I'm going to just keep us on our A game. We can't take no nights off, and we just support each other through it all, honestly.
So when you decided to go, I'm going to start with you, Ken. When you went to Newman, I know you had Randy as a great role model and influence, but what made you decide, that's a big decision, where you're going to go to high school, where you're going to play for high school.
Right.
What made you decide to go to Newman?
Well, I went to Newman 6th grade. I started 6th grade.
You started 6th grade,
Met
okay.
Randy 8th grade, came along, coached me that 8th grade year.
So you're already there?
Right,
Nice.
yes, sir. But
go ahead.
Yeah, it was just family, just academics. Newman, great high school, great school to be at, and then Randy brought along a great basketball program and just went from there.
So when you decided to come, I'm always curious. I came last second. I went to De La Salle. I was thinking about Jesuit, Newman actually. But when you decided to come to Newman, what was your final decision?
It was easy for me because I've been knowing Cannon my whole life, and it was more easy for me than talking to Randy, getting more comfortable with the school, and just taking my visit there, just shadowing Arch. So I was just, excited, pretty much.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, y'all are, I don't even say arguably, I don't want to upset any other coaches, but I would say you're certainly in the argument for the best overall team in the state, certainly the city. What are your thoughts on that? What are some other teams that you thought might give you a run, and do you feel that you can compete with anybody in the state?
Yeah, well, from day one I got there, the goal was to play the best teams, to just see where we are, and that hasn't changed every year I've been at Newman. And so for us, I always felt like this year we had all the components to have the best team in the state, and I think we played like it for most of the season. I think we had a little hiccup there probably 3/4 of the way through where we weren't playing very well, and I think it was needed because it got those guys back focused on, if you don't play well and you don't play together, you can be beat. But I've said it from the beginning, no knock against all the state champions, all the teams in Louisiana. I did really feel like we had the best team in the state, regardless of class, and that's for the writers to talk about, but as a coach and the team, we felt like that. But at the end of the day, I just felt like we had the makeup of a great team, and they showed it.
When you played, I went to your games in the playoffs. I was in law school then, and I remember going to the games. I remember when I was a kid, I remember going and seeing Sean Toohey and my man Gerald Williams, who I became great friends with over the years, and love Gerald. But what's it like for you as a coach? This is where you went to school, and you had some great success. Obviously, 2-time player of the year in the country. That's nothing to sneeze at. Arguably the greatest player to ever come from the city. But now you're back home. You've been around the world, literally. You've been in the NBA for 12 years or so. So when you come back home and you win two state titles now for your alma mater, what's that like?
No, it's a great feeling. But to be honest with you, the day I got the job and I walked in the gym, I made it a point. It wasn't really about Randy Livingston.
No
It was
doubt.
about these kids.
Sure.
It was about their development on and off the court. And for me, I wear the end shield with great pride.
Yeah.
I mean, I bleed green. I love everything about the school, and like I said, I had high expectations the day I walked in there, and just to see the team, the maturation, especially of these two young men, it's been incredible, and it's everything I thought it would be. And yeah, it's unlikely that we'll win every day, but the first year with Cannon, the first year with Cannon, 8th grade, we went undefeated. So like the bar was set high, but obviously in high school sports, you're not going to win every game. But at the end of the day, to win 2 state championships and to be in the semifinals and in the finals for 3 straight years, it's a great pride that I take.
That reminds me of something, and it's funny that I have Coach sitting here in the wings because when I was in 6th grade, De La Salle didn't start till 8th grade. That 8th grade team was legendary. They went 35-0. And then when Kenny Benura, Joey Latino, and by the time that team got to be seniors, it wasn't so good. They didn't do so well, and our class ended up picking it back up and bringing it back. And of course, Dennis Tracy's team went 40-1. But when you get there to school, Cannon, I mean, did you have dreams? I mean, there wasn't a lot of state championships in the past. I know they had a couple way back, but did you have any dreams that this might happen? I mean, I know we all dream about winning state and being first team all state and all that, but reality, when you're in 5th, 6th grade, were you thinking, man, I'm going to have at least 2 state titles, maybe go to the state championship 3 straight times?
I mean, that was definitely the goal, to leave Newman with some state championships. And then when Randy came, like I said, 8th grade, just us going undefeated, 8th grade year, kind of building confidence going into freshman year, high school, that we're going to have a good team. And then Lockett joining me, 9th grade year, that we can make this happen.
You're smooth, man. I watched you a lot. My friend Keith Miller sent me a bunch of tape on you last night, so I watched some more. And I was thinking, this guy you're cool under pressure. I mean, nothing seems to phase you. I was kind of the opposite player, a little more excitable. But but the fact is, where do you get that? Because you must be born with it, because I don't know how you handle it. But the fact is, nothing seems to phase you.
Right.
Would you consider that part of your game?
Right, yeah, I do. It's just kind of my brothers, just growing up with them. I have 2 older brothers, just them like beating me up when I was younger, and I used to show emotion a lot, like cried during the games, pout, scream, just them doing that, and just getting older, just not showing emotion, just no one could feel like they can rattle you, like no one feel like they have a answer to how you play or anything. So just by you showing no emotion, just you can't understand what I'm about to do or how I am.
That's awesome. Chris, I saw it when he said I used to pout, scream, do that. I saw him kind of giggle a little bit. Y'all been playing around for a while. Did you notice a change in him?
Yeah, I mean, under pressure, he's cool and collect. I mean, it's wonderful playing with him. It's been a blessing since we was little. But, he's been phenomenal in my eyes, honestly. Like one of the best point guards I ever played with.
Listen, I've been hearing nonstop. I mean, of course, Keith is y'all's biggest fans, right? But nonstop, like, you guys could play anywhere in the country, period. And listen, I'm gonna brag about you for a second, because I saw you back in 9th grade. I've watched your maturity. You just have a handle of the game. I mean, like when you have the ball, it's a smooth thing. You glide around and you feel like, you're under control. I mean, you can do anything on the court. You can handle the ball. You can go down low. How would you describe your overall game?
Just moving at my own pace, not being rushed.
Right.
Just making winning plays, honestly.
When you made your college decision, because I was just up at Boise, going to Boise State to play for the Broncos. There you go. You got some stuff committed right there. Obviously, you signed now. But when you went up, what made them the choice? Because I'm going to tell you this real quick. I hadn't been there in like 15 years. I did an NCAA tournament years ago with Tim Brando, and we just had a football game this time. And I watched the difference in that city. I mean, it's phenomenal in 15 years. That school has grown, the city has grown, and I can see the attraction. But what was it for you that made you go?
The coaching staff, and like when I went up there, it just felt like family, honestly. It's a different place from New Orleans, so I just wanted something different. And when I went to the game, it was like at a neutral site, so I just saw all these fans, and it was just cheering and, excited fans, honestly.
Oh, you went to a neutral site game and had tons of fans? That shows you what you need to know then, right there. They do support their sports up there. They don't have a pro team. They got, they still have G League? No, they don't. I know they used to, right? Weren't you a Stampede?
Stampede, yep. They don't have it anymore, though.
But now that I think about that, you must have connections in Idaho. Did you know any of the coaches there, or maybe talk to any of them about, hey, maybe you want to take a look?
Yeah, Coach Rice was the coach when I was up there playing and coaching. He comes from the Gonzaga coaching tree.
Yep.
And then one of their assistants, Roberto Bergerson, played at Boise State, and I played with him at the Stampede. So there's definitely a relationship. The owner of the team still up there. So there's still great relationship up there. My assistant coach, Travis Russell, who's from Boise, down here at Newman, he traveled from Boise to come down here and join the staff. So there's lots of connections. Boise's a great city, and it definitely has grown. Every year I was there, it has grown, and I think it will continue. But it's a unique situation, I think, for him, because they've put 3 or 4 wings in the last 6, 7 years into the NBA. So I think he has a chance to go up there and play well, and
that's
it's going to be
something
great.
right there. I mean, 6 or 7. I can think of 3 off the top of my head, but that's impressive. I got a question for you. I know this is not about Randy, it's about team, but I want to know what y'all might know about his career a little bit, only because I met Randy when he was in 8th grade. He probably doesn't remember, but I used to play right after college at Newman. We go play, just pick up with a bunch of Newman guys and some Jesuit, all that. We all played in college together, so we kept it going. And Coach Fitzgerald, obviously, he we had to wait for y'all to finish practice, and he comes over to John Dren and he says, "Hey, I got this kid in 8th grade, and he wants to, I want him to play a little pickup with you." And we're like, "Come on, man, we're in the prime of our careers. We're 22, 23. This 14-year-old, we ain't nothing." He took baseline and he put it. I don't know if you jammed it, but you got up real high and just put it right by whoever was guarding you. Thank God it wasn't me. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So I knew early on this kid was going to be good. I just had no idea how good he was going to become. And when you're the 2-time National Player of the Year, I mean, that doesn't happen very much. It happened like Greg Oden, and we got, a couple guys like that back in the day. I know I said them all before, but there's
Kareem.
Who's that?
LeBron Kareem.
LeBron and Kareem, that's it. And then there's a guy named Jerry Lucas that did it back in 1960. But these are marvelous, obviously, some of the greatest players that ever played. You're talking about LeBron and Kareem, 2 of the best. But this guy did it, and I'm going to say this. In New Orleans, this never happened, and it probably never will happen. But the fact is, did you know anything about, you probably knew he was great, but did you know anything else about him?
I did. When I came to Newman, my coach, Coach Sean Burris, who kind of pushed me to go to Newman, he told me many great things about Randy. And then you still hear it to this day. When you're on team buses going out to eat, someone just pulls you aside like, "Randy lives here, Coach. You got it. You're in good hands." Like, you still hear it always. But yeah, I did hear about his career, that he was one of the great players in Louisiana and then great players in the country. And you still see it in our trophy case that Randy has his own little section of all his trophies.
All right, I love it. Well, he deserves it. I'm going to say this. I remember flying back from Atlanta just to see you play a couple times, and I remember when I finally ended up law school, I remember watching Peyton Manning in the stands because I believe he got kicked off the team for maybe missing a curfew or something, maybe a team rule. But I was sitting there like, he was watching y'all, and I remember thinking he just wants to be there so bad. But when you think, Chris, when you think of like the legends that have been to this, I'm not saying little, but it's a private school that's not that big. Yeah. When you think of Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, this is as big as it gets. I mean, you got Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. These guys have all won at Super Bowls and been the MVP. There's Odell with the football coach, after Nelson Stewart. But the fact is, and Randy Livingston. I mean, Randy's probably the most decorated of them all. As good as Peyton was, he was not even first team All-American. It was Josh Booty, the other quarterback from Louisiana. And obviously Eli was, he came big later. But Odell was a good player, not great. But when you see, that's 4 guys right there. And then Sean Tuohy, back in the day, you might not know much about him, but he still leads the SEC career in all-time assists. That's a lot of legacy there. Yeah. Did you know much about that growing up?
No, I mean, I think when I took my visit to the school, that's the first thing I really saw is like all of Randy's stuff in the corner in the gym. And I was just in awe. So it was just like, just taking everything in, honestly, and just doing my research on the school as well.
So when you went to Lake Charles this year, and I know they played in Lafayette, they played different places when y'all won your titles. Lake Charles is where it's always been. Marsh Madness as opposed to March Madness. It's kind of a cool name. But winning a second, I mean, that puts you in another class. I mean, everybody that's won, you got one. Even the Saints have that little thing that sticks in Drew Brees and Sean Payton's craw. They just got one, so they're not really immortalized like some of the greats would be. But now when they talk about the teams in Louisiana history, y'all are going to be mentioned. There's no doubt. I mean, regardless, they're going to say y'all, one of the best of all time. But the multiple thing, what did it mean for you? I'm going to start with you, Chris, to get that second one. Here's the one I believe that's the one you just got, right?
Yeah.
I see the 2. Yeah.
It just means like it wasn't no fluke the first year. Randy always preaches hard to go back to back, so we were just motivated and hungry to get another state championship.
And what about you?
The second championship kind of just established that it's for the next few years, Newman's going to have a great team, great run at the state championship. Us having younger players playing, getting good minutes, freshmen included, sophomores, first year on varsity players, that Newman's going to be in good hands for the next couple of years.
That was the next question, because you're leaving a legacy now and you're continuing to build. I mean, Randy didn't want to stop at 2, I'm sure. what does it mean for you to leave? You know, y'all left the legacy, but you're going to continue it. You're not scared to play 9th graders or 10th graders and stuff like that. A lot of schools say, hey, they want you to get a little maturity and play not till you're junior or senior full time, but you're not scared of that. And what does that mean for you?
I think if they're ready, you throw them out there and get them as much experience as possible. I mean, to these guys, the complimentaries, like in most, whether it's baseball, whether it's the Boston Celtics, whether it's the Chicago Bulls, you got to go through something. I really think we should be on 3. They haven't said that. I mean, we were up 2 minutes with 2 minutes to go, 6 points, and they were just not ready for it yet. But sometimes you have to go through the fire to get to where you want to get to, and I think they remembered that. That made them hungrier. And then once you eat and taste success, then some people get a little, into themselves. They start getting big-headed. They start feeling themselves, and then you can get knocked off the mantle. But they did an incredible job this year staying focused. I mean, we did a lot of traveling. We went to a prestigious tournament in Springfield, Massachusetts. We went to the City of Palms for the second year in a row.
Yes.
So we did a lot just to make sure they understood that there's more to it than just, playing in Louisiana, playing here, that there's levels to this. And to stay focused for a second straight year, it only gets harder because everybody, tastes success. They don't handle that well. But these guys handle it like professionals, and they were awesome this whole season. So it was great to win it again and prove to everybody that it wasn't a fluke. And we do have young talent.
Well, you do. I want to say that real quick. So, talk about some stuff you still have in the pantry. What you got going?
Well, Todd Jones and Chris Lehman will be seniors with Isaiah Grant and Felipe Suazo. But our sophomore and freshman class are some of the best in Louisiana. So we expect those guys to really play well. And, people are going to think that just by losing Cannon and Chris and Law and Paul that we may take a
Maybe you'll be hunted again a little bit.
No, we definitely will be hunted.
I know exactly.
Well, I'm just hoping people schedule us thinking that, just because these two guys are gone, we're going to have a drop-off. But no, we have built the program. That's the one thing that I learned from, I would say the John Curtis model and the great Coach JT is that, you got to build the program from the middle school up, and you got to make sure, like I said when I first came in, the coaches are only as good as the talent in the room. I'm not a fool. I understand that you have to have talent, but you also have to have kids with good character, good parents, and good administration that understand what you're trying to build. And when it all works like that, it's special.
Well, I can see they're high character folks. And I'm going to say this real quick. I'm talking to you, Ron Hunter. I'm talking to you, Mark Slusher. I'm talking to you, Matt McMahon. Let me say very quick. You're a D1, to me, a high-level D1 player. You're going to fill out, but I'm going to say this. I watched you enough, and I know what you got. The ball's like a yo-yo in your hand. You can handle it. You can dish it. You can score when you need to, and you're a great leader. For a point guard, unless you're slow, that's right. You're not slow. So when you talk about your future, I'm not going to say specific teams or whatever, where we might end, but what kind of program are you looking to land in, Cannon?
I'm just looking for a program that just will better me as a player, better me as a man, just better me as a person, just one that's just gonna accept me for how I play. Just come in, be comfortable right away, and that they're just a family and that we just have a winning mentality.
Yeah, I just want to explain something to the audience. Like, the transfer portal has changed the game a lot. People are waiting for the next guy. They think they're going to get the next Pistol Pete or somebody out of the portal, and they're looking for that next guy. So the high school guys, sometimes, if they don't go early, they sit and wait until what the portal does. But this kid's going to land on his feet. He's going to land great, and he's going to prove everybody that they should have been on him way earlier, and I firmly believe that. I'm not saying that because you're sitting here, but thank you for coming to the show, guys. Yes, we give gifts here. We're going to start. Well, this is a guy you might know well. Task Performance. Well, his kids went to Newman. Didn't you play with one of them?
I coached Porter. They played with Porter their freshman year, and then I played with Todd.
Well, y'all might have enough of these. 2
state championships.
But we'll give them to you because they like the publicity. These are both largest for you guys. And then we got a little bigger one.
Thank you.
Extra luck for you.
Smaller one for me.
And then smaller one for you. And there. I'm gonna give Randy a double on this, but you guys get low too. You go get. He'll get dinner. You can get lunches. But here, that's for that Shays de la Shays right there. That's uptown on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway. But you can also go to the one on St. Charles called de la Shays. Just go grab you something to eat. Just stay away from the bar. All right, but anyway, y'all enjoy. Congratulations. This has been fun for me, and I know. And good luck on your next step, and good luck for you, man.
I appreciate it.
This is probably your 3rd time on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Randy, Cannon, good to see you, man.
Thank you. Good to
and
see
Chris. Good to see you. Love watching your footage too. I love how you control a game. I mean, you get the ball and you just look around and you say, I got this, and take it. So good luck on that next level.
Thanks.
Hey, we're coming up next. I told you we're going to have all sports here. We're going to baseball next. And when I grew up and through college, there was only one guy you really talked about until a guy named Skip Bertman came later. His name was Ron Maestri. And when I talk about success, the guy won over 70% of his games in his first run. Then he came back. He was an AD for several years with the UNO Privateers, the athletic director, and then did some stuff with the Zephyrs. But when he came back, he brought the program back, and then he groomed the coach they have now, Blake Dean. His name's Ron Maestri. We're going to talk about his legend coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay. I'll take it from here.
Hey, can I get a seat?
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And like I said just now with Randy Livingston and his great players, we're going to go to baseball. And for me, this is a special treat. As a youngster growing up here, I loved all sports. I loved baseball. I played it regularly. Of course, basketball, you know that. And all of them. Played football too. But let me say this. Baseball was a passion for me. And I remember going to a lot of UNO Privateers games, a lot of Tulane baseball games. I just liked college baseball. And then I fell in love with LSU as well later, maybe towards high school and college. But UNO was the standard. And I'm going to say this, when they went to the World Series in 1984, I had a former high school teammate that played second base and shortstop on that team. His name was Kenny Benora. And then I've had a special attachment to that team. I felt like, I was a little small part of, watching this team. And they were just good every year. They were winning 40-plus games every single year. Ron Maestri was the coach. He got the job at 30 back in 1972, I believe. And he kept coaching there for like 13, 14 years. And he became the athletic director eventually for 21 years. And then he came back to coach again in 2013 or 14, I believe. 2014 and 15, he coached, and he brought a guy named Blake Dean, an LSU legend, as a player, and he brought him as an assistant coach, a hitting coach, and then Blake Dean has been the head coach ever since 2016. But here he is. This is the architect of UNO sports and athletics in my mind, and I know a lot of players that have played there. I know a lot of basketball players. I remember Dwayne Rebold was the first, I think, scholarship athlete in basketball there. I'm bringing that. You got to be old if you're going to remember that one. But this is the guy that put them on the map, and I'm going to say that in all sports, and his name is Ron Maestri, and welcome to the show. This is a treat for me, sir.
Thank you,
I've respected
Scott.
you for a long time. You still look fantastic.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Getting old.
So I got to say this. I got to talk New Orleans. You've now been here, close to, I guess, a half century, right? I mean, so when you came from Bradley, you're Bradley Brave from Illinois, and that's where you grew up in Illinois. What was it like when you said, "Hey, I'm going to New Orleans"? I mean, that's not a unique place for somebody in the Midwest.
It was a unique situation. I was scouting for basketball for Bradley when I was at the junior college tournament in Pensacola, and they had the Florida Junior College Tournament. The guy sitting next to me was Ron Green. I didn't know Ron at that time. He introduced himself. Where are you from? Bradley. He said, he went to Bradley.
Ron
for
Green
a
went to
semester.
Bradley? Oh, my God.
For one semester.
Okay, one semester.
He said, gee, I might have a baseball job open. They'd only had baseball for 2 years.
Yeah.
Hey, would you be interested? Well, what do you say? You know, here I am. I didn't know where New Orleans was. And I said, sure. And he called me a couple weeks later, come down for an interview. I came down. I said, no, that's not. Calls a couple weeks later.
Wait. I want to see when you said that's not. Would you just see?
Well, you had an open field.
Right, an open field.
An open field. They didn't have a fence. They had a lean-to the kids called for dugouts. I mean, that was it.
Right.
And and I'm at Bradley, an established program. I was an assistant coach with my old coach who hired me.
Right. Okay.
That I played for. He was going to retire. I knew what I had. But I hated the cold weather. You couldn't play the games.
That's true.
Came back down here. He said, you got to come down with your wife. Came down. I've been here ever since. And, you know, we built the program from scratch. I mean, we had nothing. And glad I made the choice.
Well, I'm going to say this. I mean, New Orleans gets in your blood. As a guy that grew up here, I'm a native, and I left there. I love that shot on the left. That's the classic. Let me tell you, the shot on the left is the classic Ron Maestri for me when I was growing up. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, you were the most confident guy on the field, and I love that about you. You know, you knew your teams were good. You knew you were never scared to play an opponent. And I love the coach that had presence, because in baseball you don't always see it, because basketball, they're on the field. Football, you know, you see them on the field. Baseball, they're in the dugout. You know, you see them hanging out the dugout sometimes. But when you came down here in New Orleans, did it take long for it to get in your blood?
No. You know, remember the first parade, you know, I reached for a doubloon and somebody stepped on my hand. But it was, you know, it's just a great atmosphere. And the best thing was I had a Chancellor Hitt was the founding chancellor and Ron Green, and they wanted a program. And we didn't have a lot of money, but they said, we won't put handcuffs on you. Just do what you got to do. Got some great local kids, some great parents. And we were able to do some things to get it going. And, you know, we were here, 3 years, 74. We go to the World Series, and we're national runner-up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you knew the program was there. And then, you know, that's when I told you before we were on, I started going to games, and maybe 75, 76, you know, it was like 10 or 11. And I remember I told my dad, I'm like, I want to go out there. I mean, because Tulane was right in our neighborhood. I went there easier. But, I mean, it's like the way y'all played. And I remember a guy, and I was a little older. I might have been in junior high or high school. Augie Schmidt was just one of the greatest players I've ever seen live. Certainly at that time, probably the greatest. But, you know, now obviously I worked in the majors for a long time. But this guy here, and this Paul Maneri, the LSU coach on the right in that picture, that's Augie Schmidt on the left. These are ABCA Hall of Famers. And that's Augie right there. Played shortstop. He had nice size. Tell me about what he was and what he meant for your team.
Well, you know, he was all world. He was second pick in the country that year. Sean Dunston went #1 to the Cubs.
Yeah.
Augie was #2 to Toronto. My dad at that time was, you know, he worked for the Pirates as a recommendation scout. He said, you got to see this kid. He can play. So I flew up there. He's in Racine, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Oh, I know what that is, yeah.
They were done with, they hardly played a baseball season, so it was right after in late May. And I went up, and they were playing in the City League in Milwaukee. And the ball was hit to him, and he's off balance. He throws a dart and hit a ball off the fence.
You knew right away?
But when I knocked on his door to go to his house, he comes out, he had a batting helmet, I had a uniform. And honestly, you say to yourself, you know somebody can play. And I really believe this today. I can go out and see a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And I can say he can play. Now, can he be the #2 pick in the country? Who knows? But once he got here, he
had to love the weather, right? Because in Wisconsin, I recruited Wisconsin a lot as an agent.
Yeah.
And it is freezing cold and 0 degrees, sometimes below, blizzards, and you can't really play baseball until it seems like later in like maybe April.
And then you're throwing snowballs when you're playing.
Right, yeah. It hurts your hands when you try to bat.
Yeah.
But I love what you said. He had a uniform on when you walked in the door.
Yeah.
That's a baseball player.
Well, you know, he's getting ready to go play, but he had the helmet, and well, he was drafted 5th, I think, out of high school.
Out of high school?
But I think it was Cincinnati, and they had all the compensation. But he would have probably been a number 1 had they not had all those compensation picks and
right, the compensation picks.
But his dad was the coach at Carthage College, and wanted him to get an education. And I was just fortunate that you know, he said he wanted to come, and
that's a huge get, man.
He's still a coach. He's in the ABCA Hall of Fame. He's coaching up there.
Well,
he's a legend.
Was he at Carthage too, or
he's at Carthage College where his dad
that's what I thought. I thought he was at Carthage as well.
Yeah.
You see Paul Maestri there. I know y'all have a special relationship. Paul actually was at LSU and Tulane playing baseball, and am I correct on that? Or am I wrong? I thought
LSU, and then he came.
Then he came to UNO, right?
Yeah.
But there you are. I remember when I first started coming back here in the media. Maybe I was here for a year or two. One of my treats was I was not on TV back again yet, but I was on radio, and I went to one of your first games. And Maestri was playing y'all, and y'all both came up to the press box, and we did a 3-way interview. I think that's really how I got to know you at first, Ron.
Right.
And it was a treat for me as an LSU graduate, but also a kid that grew up watching you. You know, LSU had just won the national championship maybe 4 years before that, 4 or 5 in 2009. And then, you know, but to see the camaraderie and the love between you two, I mean, this is, coaches already have a little bit of something, but this is a guy that was under you and reveres you. I mean, I'm just real. He respects and reveres you.
He's, you know, he's a special guy. You had to know his father, Demi.
Yeah,
Doc.
Demi.
Arguably one of the best junior college coaches ever.
Yeah.
He had everybody at Miami-Dade. Back then, Steve Carlton, he had O.B. McDowell, he had...
Oh, my gosh. Steve Carlton, first of all, one of the greatest pitchers of all time.
He had Mickey Rivers. He had all those guys.
Yeah.
And Doc was, you know, Paul was a product of his father, being in the dugout from a little kid, and just knew the game inside and out. Was a coach on the field, and obviously his career at LSU and at the Notre Dame and the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
It was all a reflection on following his dad's footsteps, and just a tremendous person, a good person, a good coach, and you know, he was a coach on the field when I had him. And he was there probably, arguably, 84 went to World Series. 79 was probably the best team. We just didn't get there. We fell short in regional with pitching.
There's your 84 team, and I said this in the open earlier. This is the first Louisiana team in the College World Series. I know you played in the World Series on a different level in 74, but in 84, and you beat Mississippi State. Let me go ahead and say this. I've had Will Clark on the show, and it still bothers him a lot that y'all took them out of the tournament, right? The NCAA tournament?
We played the championship, yeah.
Yes.
To go to the World Series in Starkville.
Yes.
When they had Palmero, Clark, Thigpen, and Brantley.
Well, I have the pictures of these guys. There's Palmero and Clark back in the day. That was thunder and lightning. Two of the great major league players. Palmero's got over 500 home runs in the majors. Will Clark was well on his way to the Hall of Fame. He had some injuries curtail it, but he was arguably the best player in Major League Baseball for about 3 or 4 years, from 88, 89 to like 92. He was the man. And in college, he certainly was one of the greatest of all time. I played against him in high school when he was a Jesuit, both basketball and baseball. But this team, to take this legendary team, Bobby Thigpen had 55 saves in the majors. Scott Brantley, the guy on the far left, was a great pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds when they won the World Series in 1990. I know these players. They're all great, and you took them out, Coach.
That's him right there. That's who we beat 6-3.
Scott Brantley right there.
Yeah.
You remember the score. You remember it all. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
6-3.
You can't forget that game. You're playing at Mississippi State. People are hanging on the building. It was packed. They're cooking in the outfield.
It's the greatest day. Yeah,
it's the greatest atmosphere. Stuart Weedeye hit a grand slam. Stuart was from Ocean Springs, wanted to go to Mississippi State. For whatever reason, they didn't take him. we fortunately we got him. He hits the grand slam
against them.
Against them. Wally Whitehurst pitches.
Okay, Wally Whitehurst is one of my favorites. Okay, I do have a shot at Wally. I think it's in the top 50. Now Wally's another one, man. I was going to see I loved the Mets back then when he played for the Mets, and he was a great player. But you had Wally. I mean, let's just talk about some of these greats. Randy Bush, Wally. I mean, who's some of these other great ones you had?
Well, you mean not that year?
Not that year, but just in
Eric
general.
Rasmus, my first.
Okay, that's my favorite. Eric Rasmussen when I was a kid.
I still have his autograph. He can pitch. I mean, he was mean. He was aggressive. He threw strikes. He had a nice career in the big leagues. Jimmy Bollinger.
Jimmy, I played against Jimmy. He was at Rummel.
Yeah.
And he played for the Cubs.
Kenny Bonura went crazy up in the regional when we beat Mississippi State and into the World Series. Kenny was
That's
like
one of the second basemen
12 for
right
14 or something. He had, I don't know how many hits he had in the tournament.
There's Maestri on the bottom. There's Johnny G. Vitello, who I don't believe you coached.
No, Johnny came after.
Yeah.
Played for Tom Walters.
Yeah, right. But he ended up being the majors. You got the guy on top, Bonura, who was one of the scrappiest, greatest heady players.
Roger Erickson.
Yeah, but you got Rasmussen. I have a shot at him as well. I think pitching. But I remember, like, he spoke at my Little League banquet, and I was just enamored with him, man. And he signed a bunch of stuff for me, and I was going through some old stuff, and my mother died. And I'm like, I almost had a tear. I mean, because when I saw his signature, I remember the moment. You know, I'm like 11, and we had won the whatever we won. We were 126 and won over 3 years. This thing, but one of the things I remember was Rasmussen, and it just brought back memories when I was going through stuff last night to have you on, and I just remembered as a kid just loving watching y'all play, man. You had some great
Well, you
players.
know, Ras was here in '73, and had he not signed as a junior, he would have been back. We'd have won the national championship. We were just short of pitching.
That year, too.
That year, we lost the national championship game to Cal Irvine. But Ras was, and still is, he had an 0-something ERA.
0-point something, like Dennis Eckersley style.
No, he did.
Yeah.
And 120-some innings pitched. He was just dominant, and he was mean. He just knew he could do it. Got signed with the Cardinals, got up there very quickly. And
that's it, because he was a Cardinal when he did this Little League thing. That's right, because he came back to town and did this thing. I remember that. I got to talk about when you came back. Obviously, we saw some pictures of you when you were a bit older, because you left for a while. You were an AD for 21 years. You worked with the Zephyrs. You had some great years with them.
Right.
And then you decided to come back, and I've been always wanting to ask you about that. That's the Ice Bucket Challenge. That's your coach now. In the middle, Blake Dean. And obviously, my man on the far side right there was the PR guy.
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. What a good guy he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all were good sports about it. Y'all got dumped with the ice water. But talk about coming back for those 2 years you were the coach. I know the success wasn't great, and it brought your average down a little bit. Now you're only like winning 69% of your games. That's still better than anybody ever from this state. Maybe Bertman can do it. But when you came back and you helped bring the program back, and then you groomed Blake Dean to be the head coach, and he's still the head coach, and he's been getting an extension since then. Why'd you do it, and what did it mean for you?
Well, you know, I was 72, and I certainly was looking to come back to coach.
Yep.
And they asked me to come back. I knew what I was getting into. I knew they did, you know, they had to let a lot of the kids go because they were talking about going to Division III.
Yeah, that's what.
And all the good kids said, well, I'm transferring out. They could transfer legally then if you were going to drop down in the program. But didn't want to let the program go.
Yeah.
And that's the reason it came back for 2 years. We raised money. Fortunately,
that's your field, Maestri Field at Privateer Park.
Hired Blake as a volunteer that first year. Second year, made him an assistant coach, and then I left and made him the head coach, and it's the best thing we've had. He's done a fantastic job. Great guy, loves the game. The kids love him. And
Blake is a great guy. He's a great human being, and I'm going to tell you this. He got his 200th win this weekend. They beat Mississippi Valley State 35. I don't know if that's the game, but this. How about this win?
Yeah.
I know you had a lot of big scoring teams, but 35 runs in one game.
It was a wild weekend. The wind was blowing out. The kids, everybody. He played everybody up from the fourth inning on. I mean, the whole roster. everybody came up, just hit the ball. You don't want to beat somebody.
No, you don't. You don't.
But he was holding runners up at third, and was one of those things. You know, you get a chance to play. You don't want to go up there and strike out.
Right. No, if you're coming in and you don't get to play much, you're going to get.
And then they had the controversy with the umpire, and it was just a long.
Why did that matter? I mean, like the umpire got suspended. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into that part, but he got suspended because there was an obvious. Was he just wanting to get out of the ballpark?
Well, he has. You know, I had many run-ins with umpires over the years, but in fairness to this guy, he's getting brutalized in the media.
Yeah.
He's a good umpire and a good person. He made a mistake, but he took some grief that whole game. They ejected 2 of the fans from their school.
Oh, my goodness.
Out of the ballpark. He ejected 2 players. The coach didn't have much control, and the guy did the best job he could. Unfortunately, he made a mistake, and he should be back in the game sometime.
Yeah.
He should be penalized.
We all make mistakes, you know.
Absolutely.
And so we got to remember that.
He's not a bad person.
Well, Ron, I appreciate you, man. I love what you've done for the city of New Orleans. Obviously, I can't believe I did the math in my head when you were saying something about getting the job at 72. So that means you're 81 now?
82.
You're 82 now. Look at you. Look at you. You're the third 80-plus-year-old I've had on this month. I had Al Johnson, who sings It's Carnival Time, and I had Big Chief Monk Boudreaux. And I love hanging around with people that can teach me something and are wiser than me and have lived life. And you're certainly one of these guys. I'd like to have dinner with you soon, man, because you're awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate being on.
Listen, man, this guy, Ron Maestri, I'm going to go ahead and say it again. You talk about legends, this guy's one. So either better ask somebody like an older relative or Google him up. You'll see what I'm talking about. They had a lot of really great seasons when he was the head coach, and he was a fantastic athletic director as well. Did some great things with the basketball team and also the other sports there at UNO. And they've got a great situation right now. Tim Duncan's a great man at the AD position. I love their coaches. Mark Schlesinger, y'all know he's one of my best friends. And, of course, Blake Dean, who's been a great friend of this show. And I love having him on as well. So, hey, we did our baseball part. We just did the basketball before. Now we're going to go to a sport you know I love. And I didn't know anything about 5 years ago, but I love it now. It's called rugby. And the Old Gold Rugby is here to stay. They've got a great stadium. They've got a great infrastructure. And they've got great leadership and ownership. And one of those leaders who's been on the show before, starting back, I think, in like 2018, I had him on. And now we're here 5 years later, and he's going to be on again. And he is the general manager, Ryan Fitzgerald, coming up next right here on Primetime Sports. Welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, you know, if you watch this right before COVID, some people are even calling this the Nola Gold Show because I had so many Nola Gold people on. We had fun. It was the shows were at Loyola for a little while, and COVID was going on right after that, and that kind of shut it down. But I'm going to say this. The Nola Gold, I think they were formed in 2017. They had their first season in 2018, and late that year, I joined them for a few years, and it was fun. 2019 season, the 20 season, which unfortunately, it was stopped early on because of COVID. They did get some great games in before that. And then 21 was magical. They won several straight games on the road. They did some great things, beating the #1 team who if they weren't undefeated at the time, the LA Giltinis, they might have only had one loss, but they were dominant, and the goal beat them, and it was such a great moment. I remember watching that one on television out there in LA. But then, you know, now they're back into, they had a season in 22, and now they're back, and they just got their first one of the season against New York, and New York has changed their name. It's no longer what it used to be, but it was a dominant win, 31-5, and I know the guy sitting next to me who has been on this show several times. His name is Ryan Fitzgerald. He is the GM of the Nola Gold, but he was with the Reese's Senior Bowl for years, and he would always come on and talk about the Louisiana players. He did it on my radio show too. Then he started coming on television, so it was natural when the Gold came around. I brought him and his former head coach Nate Osborne on, and I've also brought on their current head coach when he was a player, Kane Thompson. But we're going to talk about all that in a second. I just want to say hello. It's good to see you.
Always, thanks, man.
Semper Fi, you're a great Marine.
Yes.
I know I'm not supposed to say it because I'm not, but you are. So
Thank you.
Congratulations on your success with this team.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we got back on the winning ways this weekend. You know, we've had a couple close ones. Started off a little rough coming out the gates, and we were playing pretty well on a lot of things. We just had to shooting ourselves in the foot. Some penalties, some undisciplined stuff, maybe some turnovers. And now, you know, Kane and the coaching staff put out some big numbers to hit this weekend as far as, you know,
everything clicked. Everything clicked.
Under 10 penalties, boom, we had 6. Turnover percentage under 40, we had 33. Boom, we put those things together. The math worked out in 31-5 victory over the New York Ironworkers.
The Ironworkers.
Yeah, the new
name,
the defending reigning champ. They only gave up 2 tries.
That's the thing.
Yeah, only gave up 2 tries in 3 games, and we put 4 on them.
That had to feel good, Ryan,
yeah.
because, you know, when it all finally comes, we've lost some close games. We lost one that wasn't so close. But the fact is, when you get it together and you beat the defending champions that dominantly, you know you're on the right track.
Yeah, it was massive. Like I said, and you know, facets of their game, they have 8 tries this year with using the maul, and we stuffed them. You know, they're 0 for 6 trying to attempt it. So all the boys came together. Something like that, wins like that can really, when you look back on it, in like 5, 6, 7 weeks, maybe 10 weeks, that could be the one that kind of launches you. Confidence.
You're right. You're right.
You know,
things like that change it all. But I was with you guys for over 2.5 years, and I fell in love with the sport. And I still get asked, I mean, how's the rugby team doing? And I can honestly tell them, because I do watch the game still. I love watching y'all. It's an exciting sport.
Yeah,
and if you haven't been out there, I know it's gained traction. I love that shot of you.
Yeah.
The only one almost as good or better was the one when y'all beat Los Angeles at 21 season.
21 season.
And it was phenomenal, the excitement of you and the players. But tell me what the process has been now that it's been 6 years. I believe I've known you for at least 9 or so years, maybe 10. But the fact is, you came from the football world, and now you're in the rugby world. This is a sport you truly loved. I know you played both sports, one growing up more, and then obviously rugby in college. But talk about what the progress and has been for New Orleans and the rugby program here.
Yeah, well, I mean, to start off with, you know, in 2018-19 to be at Shaw High School, and in perfect timing to go, like, you know, the baby cakes left. I mean, the gold mine becomes available, and we go from, you know, Shaw High School, which obviously got us going. It's still a party. New Orleans people know how to, you know, throw a party. But now to go from there to
this stadium here.
Yeah, to go to this, and arguably every single team that comes into town says this is probably the #1 rugby facility right now in the United States as far as that, because not only just the home games, but, you know, we're based out of there. We just had, you know, we're having meetings there. We're having, you know, sponsorships are coming to check out the suites, and, you know, we have our gym is located there. My office is there. Our front office is there. Our training staff with Tulane, with TISM is right there. So everything is a one-stop shop. There's very rare places in the United States that have that for rugby. So I think it shows where we're going, and every single year another team's coming in. We're at 12 right now. Chicago made their debut this year. Miami Sharks have been announced that they were coming in next year. So the league is progressing.
You got Miami coming. Good. I know that was one of the cities they were looking at. But let me say, the process to get the stadium wasn't easy. The Baby Cakes did not make this easy. They had some clauses, and it was a pain, but it got done. And now you are in a preeminent stadium, and y'all have transformed it. There were a lot of people that were holding out on baseball for the city. Yeah. And the fact is baseball in July and August gets very hot. You know, your season generally in non-COVID type seasons ends in June with the playoffs and all that. But you start in February, and I want to stress this to everybody listening right here or watching, because this is major league. This is not a minor league. This league started with some foreigners coming, but now it got more curious and curious for these great players, and they don't make as much as maybe they can make in other places, but they're curious to be in the United States. And the level of talent has just gotten unbelievably massive. I mean, I'm watching it. I use that word from you, but I watched it from the beginning, and now seeing the progression of the players that not only NOLA has, but the rest of the league. That's got to warm your heart to see the league growing so rapidly.
It really has. I mean, 2018-19, like we said, we're getting going. You're always starting from somewhere. A couple of big, you know, international players coming over, but now the likes of, you know, San Diego has got, you know, Mananu is 110 games with the New Zealand All Blacks, and he's playing in San Diego.
First of all, that's like playing for the Patriots times 10 for that sport.
It would be like playing for the Patriots or playing for the Yankees and then coming down here and playing for that, you know, overseas somewhere. Like someone's playing, Derek Jeter's playing for the Yankees for how many years and then goes and plays in Japan League or something like that. Almost be kind of the similar setup here coming here, you know. So for them coming over here, and you know, some of the names that you know, maybe some people don't know, but just the fact in World Rugby, you know, where they're at to where we started in 2018 and going into 19, and now we're at the rosters in 2022 and 2023 are, you know, through the roof.
You know,
there's a lot of guys playing in this league believe, that are in this upcoming 2023 World Cup.
World Cup. And let me say this, the World Cup in rugby is the third most watched sporting event in the world. Okay, we have the Olympics, we know is number one, Soccer World Cup number two, but before the Super Bowl is the Rugby World Cup. That is a fact. Rugby is the second largest sport in the world. We're kind of tunnel visioned here in the United States because we love our sports. I don't, I love baseball, basketball, football, a little bit of hockey, all of it. Not so much soccer, but it's okay. I watch the World Cup there. But the fact is rugby is an international sport. And when I see these great players from South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, South America, and United Kingdom, and all over, Samoa, they're great people too. And I've stressed this about when people ask me about what I think about rugby. I said they're great athletes. You might be used to the club players in college, still good athletes, but not. These are world-class athletes that could probably almost play any sport if they picked up ball. But the fact is that you love this sport, and now I've grown to love it. I didn't understand it for a while, even when I started calling the games. But I want to stress to people, you have a game this weekend, and now I want to get, this is the time of year, it's getting warmer, it's a little cool now, it's going to warm up this weekend. Talk about the game this weekend and the rest of the season. Get people out to the gold mine on Airline.
Absolutely excited, really excited for this one after our big win last week. We just played in a quick turnaround, played on a Sunday. Now we're playing Saturday, 2 o'clock against Utah. Very good team. We've never lost to Utah in the history of our club, but they're a very, very good team. Every single game comes down the wire, but fast-paced, physical. 40-minute half, 40-minute first half, 10-minute halftime, 40-minute second half. You're out of in and out in 2 hours. 2-hour kickoff. The game's over by 4 o'clock. Get the break bread together. The awesome thing at the end of rugby, our socials that our fans can come down to and everything like that is.
They're having a St. Patty's party right there.
St. Patty's party right after the game. The game ends. The players go in their own locker room, shower, change, come out, and they have actually have a team dinner.
I have lifelong friends that played because of y'all and working there. I mean, I'm going to go. I mean, I still talk to Carl Meyer all the time. Tristan Blewett, Scotty, Gale, Con Foley. But I mean, I love these guys. They're great. They're guys from around the world. But one of my all-time favorites is still playing. Cam Dolan is one of my favorite human beings on earth. He is an American, one of the best Americans to ever play this sport.
Team captain this year.
3-time World Cup player, correct? 3-time World Cup. Look at him. He's on top of the city right there. I don't know what city that is, but he's owning it. You can see that. He's got Zilla. But Cam Dolan, and then you got Kane Thompson now as your head coach. Replaced our good friend. There he is right there. Replaced he was a player with the gold. International player for New Zealand as well. I mean, Samoa, but he's from New Zealand. But the fact is that you have great leadership and on both the coaching side and the playing side.
3 World Cups with Samoa, and I think what the biggest thing with Kane as well as the guy, how much the players respect. He puts together an unbelievable game plan. He's just. I mean, last week we were playing. Last week we're sitting there playing, and the second that the game is over versus New York, the social, Kane, Todd Fitzgerald, Taylor Howden, they're already on the Utah, already breaking down numbers, everything. Plus, I think the fact that Kane Thompson at 41 years old, the guy can still play, the guy can still run. There's sometimes during practice where the guy will turn his hat backwards around and he actually he'll jump in the lineouts, So I think the boys respect that and respect the amount of experience and that he's been to the top of the mountain.
He came straight from the playing field to coaching. I know he was doing a little bit of both at one time, player, coach, as an assistant. But here, we know we give gifts here.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Gotta love Task. You've heard about them, right?
Sure have.
And now they're working with the gold.
Sure have. Absolutely.
And I'm going to give a shout out to my man Hugh Evans, who's now part of the franchise there. Hugh Evans, Tim Falcon, great owner. I love Tim Falcon, and also Robert Israel is another guy that bought in early. There's the owner right there, Tim Falcon, a great man. And get out and support this team. They deserve your support, and this is the perfect time of year. I also got a gift certificate.
Thank you very much.
From Shays De La Shays.
Appreciate
so you can go there at De La Shays, and you're going to be the first one on this ball.
Absolutely.
I have a whole team on that ball. I've had a lot of players here.
Yes.
You know I have.
I know you can tell right there. Look at it. Tristan Blue, Benny Tarr,
Yeah, Benny Tarr. Man, I miss these guys. I forgot about Ben Tarr. I got to get in touch. Give us a signature. You're a 6-year.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it,
obviously a 6-year general manager of this team. You're the glue. You're the guy that gets these jewels from all over the place. I want to thank, obviously, Ryan Fitzgerald. I also want to thank my man, the Godfather. I didn't want to say, well, he's here. He doesn't like the nickname, but that's, for me, that's respect. You're the Godfather. That's what everybody else calls him. That's Ron Maestri, and what a legend he is. And, of course, Randy Livingston, 2nd straight state championship. Obviously, he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest player to ever come from the city. And you saw these 2 young men that were here today. They were phenomenal. They're going to play college ball, and they're going to be great at it. Hey, also, in the back, we got to thank the people. Will Hill, my producer, he gets it done. Without him, I'm nothing here. And the same goes for the guys working with him. Logan Graffia, and of course Alex Chacon. You know, I love it saying it like that. And then Ron and Jim, they run the show. So we got a big spring setup for you. I mean, you're going to be blown away. I'm telling you, I've already started lining up the guests. We got head coaches from LSU. We're going to have Brian Kelly. We're going to keep it going all spring long. So stay tuned. We'll see you next week right here on Primetime Sports.